The alarm systems across Earth's orbital defense network screamed to life at 0300 hours. Commander Hyunwoo was already awake in his quarters at the Terran Coalition headquarters when his communication device buzzed with the emergency alert. A ship had entered the solar system, moving erratically and broadcasting distress signals on multiple frequencies. Within 20 minutes, Hyunwoo stood in the operations center, watching the main display screen. The ship was small, badly damaged, and leaking atmosphere. It was clearly not human-made. The design was strange, with curved edges and what looked like organic patterns etched into the metal hull. This was humanity's first contact with alien life, and it was happening in the worst possible way. Dr. Ji-won arrived shortly after, her hair still wet from a quick shower. She was the best xenolinguist on Earth, someone who had spent years preparing for this exact moment. She studied the signals coming from the damaged ship and quickly identified patterns that might be language. Her fingers flew across her computer terminal, running translation programs that she had developed years ago, hoping she would someday use them. Captain Minho commanded the closest orbital station, Sentinel-7. His voice crackled through the communication system. "Sir, the ship is heading toward Mars orbit. Should we intercept?" Hyunwoo considered the options carefully. "Send a rescue team. Medical support, engineering crew, and full security detail. Dr. Ji-won will go with them. I want to know who they are and what happened to them." 6 hours later, the rescue team brought the survivors aboard Sentinel-7. There were only 3 aliens left alive from a crew of 12. They were called the Quilari, and they looked nothing like humans. They had 4 arms, gray skin that seemed to shimmer slightly, and large black eyes that held deep sadness. Their leader was named Tess, an elder who had been piloting the ship when their engines failed. Dr. Ji-won worked through the night with the translation programs. The Quilari language was complex, but she found connections to mathematical concepts that were universal. By morning, they could communicate in basic terms. What Tess told them made everyone in the room go silent. The Quilari had been running for 8 months. Their homeworld was destroyed. Their colonies were captured. Their people were scattered across the galaxy, hiding wherever they could find shelter. All of this destruction came from one source, the Velosian Empire. Tess explained that the Velosians were a massive military power that had been expanding across the galaxy for over 200 years. They had conquered 47 different species. Their empire covered hundreds of star systems. They had technology that was advanced, armies that were ruthless, and a belief that they had the right to take whatever they wanted from weaker species. The Quilari had tried to resist. They were a peaceful people, traders and explorers who had never built a large military. When the Velosians came, the Quilari fought with everything they had. It was not enough. Within 3 months, their military was destroyed. Within 6 months, their homeworld was burning. The survivors fled in every direction, hoping to find somewhere safe. "We tried to warn others," Tess said through the translation device. Her voice was weak from her injuries. "We found 5 other species in our escape route. We told them about the Velosians. We begged them to prepare, to build defenses to run if they could not fight. None of them listened. They all thought they were safe. They all thought they had time. Within weeks of our warnings, the Velosian fleets arrived at their worlds too." Hyunwoo leaned forward in his chair. "How far behind you are they?" Tess made a gesture that the translation program interpreted as uncertain. "We do not know. Maybe months, maybe weeks. We have been running for so long trying to lose them. But they always find us. They have scouts everywhere looking for new worlds to conquer, new resources to take." "What do they want?" Dr. Ji-won asked quietly. "Everything," Tess replied. "Your minerals, your technology, your people to work as slaves. And if you resist too much, they will simply destroy your world and take what remains. You seem like a peaceful species. Your broadcasts show art and music and philosophy. You will not survive them. You should run while you still can." The room was completely silent after Tess finished speaking. The Quilari elder looked around at the human faces, seeing the shock and fear she expected. She had delivered this warning before to other species and had seen the same reactions. None of them had survived. Captain Minho was the first to speak. "How big is their fleet? What kind of weapons do they use?" Tess answered every question as best as she could. The Velosians had hundreds of warships, each one capable of destroying a planet's defenses alone. They used energy weapons that could cut through most armor. They had soldiers that were trained from birth to fight. They were efficient, brutal, and they never accepted surrender from species they deemed useful for slavery. Hyunwoo listened to everything, his face showing no emotion. When Tess finished, he stood up and thanked her. "You have given us valuable information. We will provide medical care for you and your crew. We will repair your ship and give you supplies to continue your journey. You have our gratitude for the warning." Tess looked surprised. "That is all? You will not prepare? You will not evacuate your people?" Hyunwoo smiled slightly. It was not a warm smile. "We will prepare. Do not worry about humanity, Elder Tess. We are very good at survival." After the Quillari were taken to the medical bay, Hyunwoo called an emergency meeting of the Terran Coalition War Council. Every military commander, every intelligence director, every senior government official joined the encrypted video conference. The meeting lasted 14 hours. Plans were made. Resources were allocated. Orders were sent to every human colony, every military base, every shipyard. Earth had been at peace for 70 years, but humanity had not forgotten how to wage war. Their entire history was written in blood and conflict. They had fought each other for thousands of years before finally uniting. They knew strategy. They knew deception. They knew how to fight enemies who thought they were superior. At the end of the meeting, Admiral Suna asked the question everyone was thinking. Can we actually win against an empire this powerful? Hyunwoo looked at the faces on the screens around him. The Velosians have conquered 47 species. Every single one of those species was peaceful. Traders, explorers, philosophers. The Quillari tried to warn others, but none of them knew how to fight a real war. He paused, and his smile returned. The Velosians have never faced a species like us. They think we are prey because we broadcast art and music. They will come expecting an easy victory. His smile grew wider and colder. Let them come. Let them think we are weak. Let them believe their scouts and their intelligence reports. And when they arrive with their fleet, confident and arrogant, we will show them what happens when predators mistake humans for prey. The council members understood. This would not be a fair fight. This would be a trap, and the Velosians would walk right into it. 6 months passed since the Quillari warning, and Earth transformed itself into the greatest lie humanity had ever told. The operation was called Shepherd, a name chosen deliberately. Humanity would become sheep, harmless and defenseless, waiting for wolves to come. But these sheep had teeth. Admiral Suna commanded the transformation from her flagship, the Indomitable, currently hidden in a hollowed-out asteroid in the belt beyond Mars. She was 53 years old and had fought in the Mars Rebellion 20 years ago. Back then, the Martian colonies wanted independence from Earth. The war lasted 3 years and killed 2 million people before peace was negotiated. Suna knew how humans fought, and she knew how to win. The first step was hiding Earth's true military strength. The Terran Coalition had 400 warships spread across the solar system. Most people did not know this number because military production had been classified for decades. These ships were not for show. They were weapons built by a species that had perfected the art of killing their own kind for thousands of years. All of these ships now disappeared. Some flew to the Oort cloud at the edge of the solar system, where they could hide among the ice and rocks. Others went to the asteroid belt, disguising themselves as mining stations or tucking into the shadows of larger asteroids. Some even hid on the dark side of the moon, their engines cold and their systems running on minimal power. Only 30 ships remained visible. These were older models, some over 40 years old. They looked impressive enough but were outdated compared to the hidden fleet. These 30 ships patrolled Earth's space openly, making sure any observers would see them and count them as humanity's entire defensive force. Colonel Dayun handled the ground-based deception. She was 32 years old and had spent her entire adult life in special operations. Her team worked around the clock to make Earth look vulnerable. Military shipyards were covered with camouflage netting and false sensor readings that made them appear abandoned. Active shipyards were moved underground or into asteroid facilities where they could not be seen. Weapons platforms in Earth's orbit were disguised. The railgun batteries became communication satellites. The missile stations were painted and marked as weather monitoring systems. The plasma cannons were hidden inside what looked like space junk and debris. From the outside, Earth's orbital space looked cluttered and poorly defended. New colonies were established on Venus and Mercury. planets that were extremely difficult for humans to survive on. These colonies were actually automated systems with sophisticated programs that mimicked human communication patterns. To any observer, it would look like humanity was desperately expanding to harsh worlds because they needed resources. In reality, these fake colonies were bait, meant to make humanity look overextended and weak. The cultural deception was Dr. Jiwan's responsibility. Earth broadcast entertainment, music, art, and philosophical discussions into space on all frequencies. They showed documentaries about nature and history. They transmitted poetry and literature. Every broadcast was carefully designed to make humanity appear peaceful, creative, and completely unprepared for war. Lieutenant Jiho was a young communications officer, only 24 years old, but he played perhaps the most important role in the deception. He was assigned to accidentally leak information. His job was to transmit unencrypted data that would be easy for any spy to intercept. This data showed Earth's population centers, the locations of the 30 visible ships, and reports about humanity's outdated defensive technology. Everything in these leaks was true enough to be believable, but carefully selected to make humanity look like an easy target. The real military strength, the hidden ships, the concealed weapons, and the true capabilities of human technology were never mentioned. Any alien intelligence service analyzing the leaked data would conclude that Earth had a small, aging military and a population that valued art over warfare. 3 months into Operation Shepherd, long-range sensors detected the first Velocian scout ships. They stayed at the very edge of the solar system, probably near Neptune's orbit. They were small ships designed for stealth and observation. Commander Hyunwoo watched their movements from his command center deep under the Antarctic ice. "They are watching us," he said to Admiral Suna during their daily briefing, "counting our ships, analyzing our broadcasts, mapping our defenses." "Good," Suna replied. "Let them watch. Let them see exactly what we want them to see." The Velocian scouts stayed for 3 weeks. They moved slowly through the outer solar system, their sensors recording everything. Human ships on patrol in the area followed standard procedures, never acknowledging the alien presence, never doing anything that would seem unusual or suspicious. The scouts saw the 30 visible ships conducting routine patrols. They detected the fake colonies on Venus and Mercury. They intercepted Lieutenant Jiho's accidentally leaked transmissions. During the 3rd week, Jiho transmitted a particularly valuable piece of information. It was a maintenance report for the 30 visible ships, showing that 15 of them needed repairs and that replacement parts were in short supply. The report complained about budget cuts to the military and suggested that the Terran coalition was more interested in funding art museums than defense systems. 2 days after that transmission, the Velocian scouts disappeared. They left the solar system silently, carrying all their intelligence data back to their empire. Hyunwoo gathered his command staff after the scouts departed. Captain Minho joined by video link from Sentinel-7. Colonel Daeun was physically present, having just returned from inspecting the hidden weapon platforms. Admiral Suna attended from her flagship, and Dr. Jiwan was there to provide analysis of what the Velocians might have learned. "They took the bait," Hyunwoo said simply. "Now we wait for them to mobilize their fleet." "How long?" Minho asked. "Months, probably. They will need to organize a conquest fleet, gather their forces, plan their invasion." The Qilari said the Velocians are efficient but not rushed. They will take time to prepare for what they think will be an easy victory. Colonel Daeun reviewed the checklist on her tablet. "All weapon platforms are in place and disguised. We have 300 hidden gun emplacements in orbit, each one looking like space debris or civilian satellites. The fake colonies are fully operational. Ground-based planetary defense systems are concealed and ready." Admiral Suna reported on the fleet status. "All 400 ships are hidden and ready. Crews are rotating through training exercises in deep space where they cannot be observed. Every ship is at full combat readiness. Ammunition and fuel supplies are at maximum capacity." Dr. Jiwan had been studying everything they knew about Velocian military tactics, information provided by the Qilari. They follow a pattern. Scout first, gather intelligence, then strike with overwhelming force. They will bring a large fleet because they want to intimidate species into surrendering. Based on what the Qilari told us, we should expect at least 200 ships, maybe more. "Let them bring 500, Suna said coldly. "We will be ready." The months passed slowly. Earth's population went about their daily lives, unaware of the danger approaching. The government decided not to cause panic with a public announcement. Only essential military and government personnel knew the truth. Everyone else saw the continued cultural broadcasts, the art exhibitions, the music festivals. Life continued normally on the surface while underneath, humanity prepared for war. Hyunwoo spent those months finalizing every detail of the trap. He studied human military history, reading about every major battle and ambush in humanity's long, violent past. He read about Hannibal at Cannae, about the Mongol feints and false retreats, about the hidden armies at the Battle of Cowpens. Humanity had been perfecting the art of deception in warfare for millennia. The Velosians were about to receive a lesson in human strategy. 5 months after the scouts departed, long-range sensors detected a massive energy signature approaching from deep space. The Velosian fleet was coming. Intelligence estimates counted over 200 distinct ship signatures. They were not hiding or being subtle. They were coming openly, confidently, expecting to conquer another primitive species. Admiral Suna addressed the hidden fleet through encrypted channels. All ships, this is actual. The enemy is approaching. Maintain silent running protocols. Do not activate primary sensors. Do not charge weapon systems until I give the order. Remember your training. Remember the plan. And remember that we fight today not just for Earth, but to send a message to the entire galaxy. Humanity will not be prey. In his command center, Hyunwoo watched the approaching fleet on the display screens. Beside him, Dr. Jiwon looked worried. They are bringing a lot of ships. Hyunwoo smiled the same cold smile he had shown 6 months ago. They think they need this many to intimidate us into surrendering quickly. They want to minimize their casualties with overwhelming force. They do not realize they are flying into the most carefully prepared ambush in human history. He activated the communication channel to all defense stations. This is Commander Hyunwoo to all personnel. The Velosians are coming. They were warned by the Killari. They know other species were warned and still fell. They think we will be the same. Let them keep thinking that for a little while longer. In a few days, Admiral Suna stood on the bridge of the Indomitable as her ship raced toward the Velosian fleet at full speed. Around her, 400 Terran warships executed the most complex military maneuver in human history. Every ship knew its role. Every captain understood the plan. This was what humanity had been preparing for during 6 months of careful deception. All ships, break into attack formations, Suna commanded. Alpha Group, target their troop carriers. Beta Group, focus on their damaged vessels. Gamma Group, surround the flagship. Do not let it escape. The Terran fleet split into 3 groups with perfect precision. This level of coordination was only possible because of countless training exercises and simulations. Human military doctrine had been refined through thousands of years of warfare against other humans. Now that experience was being used against an alien enemy that had never faced such organized resistance. The Velosian fleet was in complete chaos. High Executor Vren tried to restore order, shouting commands to his captains, but his fleet was trapped in a kill zone surrounded by hidden weapon platforms and an enemy fleet that outnumbered him 2 to 1. Ships were exploding all around him. Distress signals filled every communication channel. His perfectly planned conquest was turning into a disaster. Get us out of Earth's orbit, Vren ordered. All ships retreat to deep space where we can regroup. But Admiral Suna had anticipated this. Her ships were positioned to cut off every escape route. Any Velosian ship that tried to flee from Earth found itself facing a wall of Terran vessels. The orbital weapon platforms continued their relentless assault, and there was nowhere to hide in the confined space around the planet. Captain Minho, very much alive despite the Velosians thinking he was dead, commanded a squadron of stealth frigates that had been hiding in the asteroid belt. His ships were small and fast, perfect for hit-and-run attacks. They darted through the battle, firing missiles at damaged Velosian ships and then disappearing before return fire could hit them. This is Minho to all frigate squadrons, he broadcast on the encrypted Terran channel. Focus on their engines. Disable them, do not let them escape. We want prisoners, not just wreckage. The Velosian troop carriers were the first to fall. These ships were large but poorly armed, designed to carry soldiers rather than fight battles. The Terran Alpha Group surrounded them methodically and demanded their surrender. Most of the carrier captains, seeing they had no chance, complied. Their ships were boarded by Terran Marines, and thousands of Velosian soldiers became prisoners without firing a shot. Colonel Dayun monitored the boarding operations from her command shuttle. Her special forces teams had been training for this moment for months. They knew the layout of Velocian ships from data provided by the Quillari. They knew where the critical systems were located, and they had already infiltrated a dozen ships during the confusion of the first attack. Team 7, report status, Dayun said into her communication device. Engine room secured on the cruiser Relentless Pride, came the response. Engineering crew has surrendered. Ship is dead in space. Team 12 reporting from the battleship Dark Star. We have control of their weapons systems. They cannot fire on our ships one by one, the reports came in. Dayun's teams were sabotaging Velocian ships from the inside, turning their own vessels into death traps. It was a level of infiltration that the Velocians had never experienced. Most species they conquered did not have special operations forces trained in zero-gravity combat and shipboarding tactics. Humanity did. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, War Priest Kos grabbed Vren's arm. Executor, we must retreat. This is not a battle we can win. These humans were prepared for us. They knew we were coming. Vren pulled his arm away angrily. We cannot retreat. The Empire does not retreat. We have 200 ships against their... He paused, checking the scanner displays again. Against their 400 ships. The number made him feel sick. The intelligence reports had been completely wrong. Earth did not have 30 aging defense vessels. Earth had a fleet larger than his own, with better tactics and weapons that were far more advanced than expected. We were deceived, Kos said quietly. The Quillari warned us. They warned us that they had tried to warn others. We thought the humans would be like the other species. We thought they would be unprepared. We were fools. 6 Terran battlecruisers surrounded the Eternal Dominion, their weapons trained on the massive flagship. Admiral Suna opened a direct communication channel to Vren. Her face appeared on his main display screen. She looked calm and completely in control. High Executor Vren, this is Admiral Suna of the Terran Coalition Fleet. Your fleet is defeated. You have lost over 90 ships in the last 4 hours. Most of your remaining vessels are disabled or surrounded. Surrender now and your crews will be treated according to the rules of war. Continue fighting and I will destroy every ship you have. Vren stared at her image. You are giving me terms? You should be the one surrendering. The Velocian Empire has conquered 47 species. We have never lost a battle. Your world will be crushed for this resistance. Suna's expression did not change. You have never faced humanity before. We are not like the other species you have conquered. We are not peaceful traders or philosophers. We are survivors of 10,000 years of warfare against ourselves. Every weapon you see today was designed by humans to kill other humans. Every tactic we are using was refined through centuries of military conflict on our own world. You made a mistake coming here, Executor. You believed your intelligence reports without questioning them. You walked into our trap exactly as we planned. Vren wanted to argue, but he knew she was right. The battle was lost. His fleet was being systematically dismantled. Ships were surrendering all around him. Even his own flagship had taken heavy damage and was surrounded by enemies. His officers looked at him, waiting for orders, and he realized there were no good options left. Your species has a saying, Suna continued. Prey does not set traps. You treated us like prey, Executor. That was your fatal mistake. Before Vren could respond, alarms blared throughout the Eternal Dominion. Sir, we have boarders! The security officer shouted. Multiple breach points on decks 7, 12, and 15. They are heading for the bridge. Colonel Dayun had personally led the team that boarded the flagship. Her soldiers moved through the corridors with practiced efficiency, encountering resistance but overcoming it quickly. Velocian soldiers were trained and disciplined, but they were not prepared for the aggressive tactics that Terran Special Forces used. Within 20 minutes, Dayun's team had fought their way to the bridge doors. The doors exploded inward. Dayun entered with her weapon raised, surrounded by 24 heavily armed Marines. Vren and his officers reached for their weapons, but they were too slow. The Terran soldiers had them covered from every angle. Drop your weapons, Dayun ordered. You are prisoners of the Terran Coalition. Comply and you will not be harmed. Vren looked around his bridge at his defeated officers, at the Terran soldiers who had captured his flagship, and he finally understood the magnitude of his failure. He dropped his weapon. His officers followed his example. The conquest of Earth was over, and the Velocian Empire had lost. The battle continued for another 2 hours as the remaining Velocian ships either surrendered or were destroyed. When it finally ended, The casualty count was devastating for the Velocians. 191 ships destroyed or captured. Over 40,000 Velocian personnel dead or imprisoned. The Terran coalition had lost 23 ships, most of them the older vessels that had been sacrificed during the initial deception. Human casualties were less than 3,000. In the Antarctic Command Center, Hyunwoo received the final reports. He allowed himself a small smile of satisfaction. Operation Shepherd had worked perfectly. The Velocians had seen what they expected to see, believed what they wanted to believe, and paid the price for their arrogance. Dr. Ji-won stood beside him, watching the displays showing the captured Velocian ships being escorted to holding positions near Mars. They never had a chance, did they? She asked quietly. No, Hyunwoo replied. From the moment their scouts reported back that Earth looked weak and defenseless, their fate was sealed. They made their decision based on false information we fed them deliberately. They came expecting an easy victory and walked into the most carefully prepared ambush in military history. He activated the communication channel to the prisoner-holding facilities. Bring High Executive Vren to Detention Cell 1. I want to speak with him personally. 2 hours later, Hyunwoo walked through the secure detention center that had been prepared months in advance. The facility was underground, designed to hold thousands of prisoners if necessary. Velocian officers filled the cells, still in shock at their defeat. He stopped at the cell holding Vren. The High Executor sat on the bench, his blue skin looking almost gray in the harsh lighting. He looked up as Hyunwoo approached. There was no anger in his eyes anymore, only the hollow understanding of complete failure. Hyunwoo stood outside the cell and spoke calmly. The Kalari warned you about humanity. They told you they had warned other species. You knew all of this and came anyway. Why? Vren was silent for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. Because every other species we encountered was peaceful. The Velocian fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system, like a swarm of metal locusts. High Executor Vren stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, and felt the familiar satisfaction of another easy conquest ahead. The ship was massive, over 3 kilometers long, with enough firepower to level a continent. Around it flew 212 warships of various sizes, plus 30 troop carriers filled with soldiers ready to occupy another primitive world. Vren was tall for his species, with dark blue skin marked with scars from 20 years of military service. He had overseen the conquest of 6 species during his career. Each one had been easier than the last. The pattern was always the same. The target species would panic, resist weakly, and then surrender when they saw the size of his fleet. After that, the Velocian Empire would take what it wanted and leave occupation forces to ensure obedience. Beside Vren stood War Priest Kos, a religious advisor who blessed each conquest in the name of the Velocian gods. Kos was older. His blue skin faded almost to gray, but his mind was still sharp. He studied the scanner displays showing Earth's solar system and frowned slightly. The intelligence reports were accurate, Vren said with satisfaction. Only 30 defense ships, outdated models scattered across the system. This will be over in hours, not days. Kos nodded slowly, but his frown remained. The Quillari passed through this system months ago. They surely warned these humans just as they warned the others. And like the others, these humans clearly did not listen. Vren replied. Look at their broadcasts. Music, art, philosophy. They are not warriors. They are poets and dreamers. They will break at the first sight of our fleet. The Velocian fleet moved inward toward Earth, their massive engines pushing them forward at a speed that would bring them to the planet in 2 days. They made no attempt at stealth. The whole point was to be seen, to be feared, to make the target species understand how hopeless resistance would be. On Sentinel-7, Captain Minho watched the approaching fleet with carefully controlled fear on his face. His performance had to be perfect. Every word he broadcast would be intercepted by the Velocians, and they needed to believe humanity was panicking. He activated the emergency communication channel that connected all 30 visible human ships. This is Captain Minho to all Terran vessels. We have incoming hostile fleet over 200 ships. All units prepare for defensive formation. Repeat, this is not a drill. His voice shook slightly, and that was intentional. He took a breath and continued. Someone get me a line to Earth Command. We need reinforcements. We need them now. The 30 human ships broke from their patrol routes and began moving toward Earth. They were following the pre-planned script perfectly, looking like a desperate defensive force trying to protect their homeworld. On Earth, Lieutenant Jiho broadcast unencrypted emergency messages, calling for civilian evacuation and emergency military mobilization. These broadcasts were fake, but they sounded real enough. More importantly, the Velocians could intercept them easily. Vren listened to the intercepted transmissions and smiled. They are terrified. Good. Perhaps we will not even need to destroy any ships. They might surrender before we fire a shot. The fleet continued its approach. After one day of travel, they were passing Mars. The fake colony on Mars broadcast a distress signal, and then went silent, as if the people there were evacuating in panic. It was all theater, but the Velocians had no reason to suspect the performance. On the second day, the Velocian fleet reached Earth's orbital space. Vren ordered his ships into a standard conquest formation, surrounding the planet so that any escape would be impossible. The 30 human ships took defensive positions between the Velocian fleet and Earth. It looked brave but hopeless, like mice trying to fight tigers. Open a communication channel to the human ships, Vren ordered. Let us offer them a chance to surrender. Before the communication could be opened, Captain Minho broadcast first. Velocian fleet, this is Captain Minho of the Terran Coalition Defense Force. You are in violation of our space. Leave immediately or we will be forced to engage. Vren laughed. Forced to engage? With 30 ships against 200? These humans are either very brave or very stupid. He activated his own broadcast. Human Captain, I am High Executor Vren of the Velocian Empire. Your world is now property of the Empire. Surrender immediately and you will be allowed to live as workers under our rule. Resist and your entire species will be exterminated. You have 1 hour to decide. Minho's response came quickly. We do not surrender. If you want Earth, you will have to take it. In the Antarctic Command Center, Hyunwoo watched this exchange with grim satisfaction. Everything was going exactly according to plan. The Velocians were positioning their fleet precisely where Earth strategists had predicted they would. They were in close orbit, thinking they held all the advantages. They had no idea they were sitting in the middle of a kill zone. Vren waited the full hour, but no surrender came. Instead, the 30 human ships charged forward, weapons firing. It was a desperate, heroic gesture, and it was exactly what Vren expected. He gave the order to engage. The battle that followed was brutal and brief. The Velocian warships opened fire with energy weapons that tore through the human ships' shields. The humans fought back hard, their missiles and railguns doing some damage, but it was not enough. Within 30 minutes, 15 human ships were destroyed. Within an hour, only 10 remained, badly damaged and retreating. Captain Minho aboard Sentinel-7 continued broadcasting defiant messages, even as his station took heavy fire. This is Sentinel-7, we will not yield. We will not. The transmission ended in static as the station exploded in a massive fireball. What the Velocians did not know was that Minho and his entire crew had evacuated hours ago on stealth shuttles. Sentinel-7 had been run by remote control during the battle, and its destruction was planned. Inside the exploding station were hidden antimatter mines, carefully positioned throughout the Velocian formation over the past hour. The station's destruction activated them. War Priest Koss was the first to realize something was wrong. Executor, the energy readings from that explosion are unusual. Scanners are detecting. His warning came too late. 37 antimatter mines detonated simultaneously throughout the Velocian formation. The explosions were massive, far larger than the destruction of a simple space station should have caused. 16 Velocian ships were destroyed instantly. Another 23 were heavily damaged. Vren stared at the scanner displays in shock. What just happened? How did they— Sir, we have additional contacts. The sensor officer's voice was panicked. Multiple weapons platforms activating all around us. They were disguised as satellites and debris. There are hundreds of them. All across Earth's orbit, the hidden weapon platforms revealed themselves. The communication satellites transformed, their shells falling away to expose massive railgun batteries. The weather monitoring stations opened up, launching swarms of missiles. The pieces of space junk that the Velocians had ignored suddenly activated powerful plasma cannons and began firing at point-blank range. The Velocian fleet was suddenly in chaos. Ships began taking fire from all directions. The weapons platforms were too close for the big warships to effectively target them. Explosions bloomed across the formation as missiles found their targets and railgun rounds punched through armor. Evasive maneuvers. Friend shouted. All ships break formation and engage the weapon platforms. But before his fleet could react, the moon's shadow came alive. Admiral Suna's hidden fleet decloaked, over 400 warships appearing seemingly from nowhere. They had been waiting behind the moon, their systems cold and silent, invisible to the Velocian sensors. Now they powered up their engines and weapons simultaneously, rushing forward like an avalanche. Suna's voice broadcast on all frequencies. All Terran ships, this is Admiral Suna. Execute Battle Plan Omega. Show them what happens when they threaten Earth. The real battle was beginning, and the Velocians were no longer the hunters. They were the prey, and they had just realized they were trapped. From Earth's surface, people looked up at the night sky and saw lights flashing like a terrible storm. Most did not know what was happening, but those who did understood that this moment would change everything. Humanity was announcing to the galaxy that Earth was not defenseless. Earth was dangerous. In his command center, Hyunwoo watched the battle displays with cold focus. All units maintain coordination. Do not let any Velocian ships escape. I want complete tactical victory. Colonel Daeun stood beside him, monitoring the special forces teams that were already boarding damaged Velocian ships. Sir, we have teams inside 12 enemy vessels. They are reporting successful sabotage of critical systems. Hyunwoo nodded. Everything was working. The trap was perfect. The Velocians had walked right into it, confident and arrogant, and now they were paying the price for underestimating humanity. 3 months after the battle, Earth looked like a completely different world. The military deception was over. The hidden fleet no longer hid. Orbital shipyards that had been camouflaged were now operating openly, building new vessels at an accelerated pace. The weapon platforms remained active, a permanent defensive network that made Earth's orbit the most heavily defended space in the known galaxy. Commander Hyunwoo stood in his office at Terran Coalition headquarters, watching the news broadcasts on multiple screens. Every major network across Earth and the colonies was covering the same story. Humanity's first contact with alien life had resulted in a decisive military victory. The footage of the battle, carefully edited but still dramatic, played on repeat. The galaxy was watching, and humanity wanted to make sure the message was clear. Dr. Jiwon entered the office carrying a data tablet. The edited footage has been broadcast on every frequency we know about. We are transmitting it continuously in multiple languages, including Velocian and Quillari. Anyone with basic sensors will be able to intercept it within a few weeks, depending on how far they are from Earth. Good, Hyunwoo said. Let every species in this region of space see what happens when someone threatens humanity. Let them see the Velocian fleet burning. Let them understand that Earth is not easy prey. The footage was indeed dramatic. It showed the Velocian fleet arriving confidently, the initial skirmish with the 30 visible ships, and then the sudden revelation of Earth's true strength. The video captured the moment when the hidden weapon platforms activated, the explosion of the antimatter mines, and the appearance of Admiral Suna's fleet from behind the moon. The ending showed captured Velocian ships and defeated officers being taken into custody. The message was unmistakable. Attack Earth at your own risk. Admiral Suna arrived a few minutes later, looking tired but satisfied. She had spent the past 3 months organizing the captured Velocian fleet and processing thousands of prisoners. We have completed the interrogations. The Velocians have been surprisingly cooperative once they accepted their defeat. We have detailed information about their empire's structure, military capabilities, and occupied territories. How many species are under Velocian control? Hyunwoo asked. 47, as the Quillari told us. Most of them are peaceful civilizations that surrendered quickly when the Velocians invaded. They are being used as labor forces, mining resources and manufacturing goods for the empire. Some species have been under occupation for over a century. They do not have the military capability to resist on their own. Hyunwoo nodded thoughtfully. Then perhaps it is time to offer them assistance. Before they could discuss this further, an alert came through the communication system. Sir, we have incoming ships at the edge of the solar system. They are broadcasting Quillari identification codes and requesting permission to approach. Hyunwoo smiled. Grant them permission. Guide them to Earth orbit. It seems our old friends have returned. 2 days later, a small fleet of Quillari ships entered Earth's orbit. These were not damaged vessels fleeing from destruction. These were diplomatic ships, well-maintained and flying the banners of the Quillari Confederation. The lead ship carried Elder Counselor Tess, who had survived her injuries and returned to her people. She had heard the broadcasts about Earth's victory and had come to see for herself if it was true. Dr. Jiwan met with Tess aboard a diplomatic station in orbit. The Elder Quillari looked healthier than before, though her large black eyes still held sadness for her lost homeworld. But now there was also something else in those eyes. Hope. "We warned you about the Velocians," Tess said through the translation device. "We told you they were coming. We expected to return and find Earth conquered or destroyed, like all the others we warned. Instead, we find that you defeated them completely. How is this possible?" Dr. Jiwan smiled. "We listened to your warning, Elder Tess. We prepared. But more importantly, humanity has a long history of warfare. We know how to fight. We know how to defend ourselves. The Velocians made the mistake of thinking we were like the other peaceful species they had conquered. They were wrong." Tess gestured with her forearms in what seemed like amazement. "The battle footage we intercepted shows your fleet destroyed over 190 Velocian ships. You captured their High Executor. You made the impossible look easy." "It was not easy," Dr. Jiwan admitted. "We spent 6 months preparing the most elaborate military deception in our history. We made ourselves look weak so the Velocians would be confident and careless. We set a trap and they walked into it. But yes, we won, and now we want to help others do the same." Commander Hyunwoo joined the meeting along with Admiral Suna. They discussed Earth's plans for the region. The Terran Coalition was not interested in building an empire like the Velocians, but they were interested in creating a defensive alliance, a coalition of free species that could stand together against threats like the Velocian Empire. "We want to liberate the species under Velocian occupation," Hyunwoo explained. "We have the military strength to do it, but we need information about those species, their locations, their needs. We need partners who know the galaxy better than we do." Tess considered this carefully. "The Quillari Confederation will help you. We have suffered under Velocian aggression. Many species in this region have. If Earth is willing to lead a liberation effort, we will support it. But I must ask, what do you want in return?" "Trade agreements," Admiral Suna said simply. "Mutual defense pacts. Technology exchange. We want to establish peaceful relationships with other species. But we also want to ensure that Earth is never threatened again. We will help free species from occupation, and in return we ask for friendship and cooperation." It was a fair offer, and Tess knew it. Earth could have demanded tribute or vassalage. Instead, they were offering partnership. This was unprecedented in galactic politics, at least in this region where the Velocian Empire had dominated for so long. Meanwhile, in the detention facilities on Mars, High Executor Vren was preparing for his journey home. The Terran Coalition had decided to release him and a small crew to pilot one of the captured Velocian ships back to their empire. But before he left, he had one task to complete. Vren stood in a recording studio facing a camera. Beside him stood Hyunwoo and Colonel Dayun. The recording would be sent to the Velocian Empire as an official message from Earth. "Begin recording," Hyunwoo ordered. Vren looked into the camera. His blue skin seemed to have aged in the 3 months since his defeat. He took a breath and began speaking in his own language, which was being translated simultaneously into multiple languages for the broadcast. "I am High Executor Vren of the Velocian Empire. 3 months ago, I led a conquest fleet of 212 ships to claim the world called Earth. I was confident in our victory. The intelligence reports showed a weak, peaceful species with minimal defenses. I believed we would conquer them in hours, as we have conquered 47 other species before them." He paused, and the pain of what came next was visible on his face. "I was wrong. Earth was not weak. Earth was prepared. They knew we were coming. They deceived us deliberately, making themselves appear defenseless while hiding their true military strength. When my fleet entered their orbital space, they sprang a trap. Within 6 hours, my fleet was destroyed. Within 12 hours, I was a prisoner." Vren looked directly at the camera, knowing his words would be seen by the Velocian High Command, by the Emperor himself. "I am sending this message as a warning to our empire. Do not attack Earth, do not send more fleets. Do not believe that we can defeat them with greater numbers. The humans are not like the other species we have conquered. They are warriors. They have technology equal to or better than ours. They have tactics we have never seen before. They are dangerous. He took another breath. I am being allowed to return home with this message. The humans could have executed me and my officers. They could have kept us as permanent prisoners. Instead, they are releasing us to carry this warning. They want the Empire to know that Earth is not prey. Earth is a predator that was pretending to be prey, and we fell for the deception. The recording ended. Hyunwoo reviewed it and nodded with satisfaction. This will be sent to Velocian space along with the battle footage. Let their Emperor see what his fleet looks like scattered in pieces around our planet. 2 weeks later, Vren and his small crew departed on their captured ship, heading back to Velocian space. The ship was equipped with minimal weapons and had been modified to ensure it could not be a threat. But it carried the recordings, the data, and the warning from Earth. Admiral Suna began organizing the Liberation Fleet. Over the next few months, Terran ships would visit systems under Velocian occupation. They would offer the occupied species a choice: remain under Velocian control or accept Earth's help in gaining freedom. Most species chose freedom. The first liberated world was a planet called Velcor, home to a species that had been under Velocian occupation for 30 years. When the Terran fleet arrived and drove away the small Velocian garrison, the Velcori people celebrated in the streets. Dr. Jiwan was part of the diplomatic team that met with their leaders. We never thought anyone could stand against the Velocians, the Velcori leader said.